Hello everyone and welcome back to another Getting Stuff Painted, my bi-weekly update, give or take, on the miniatures I've been painting for the games we cover here on the channel. And I think it's actually only just been over a week. I've been painting up a storm and I couldn't hold off recording another one of these because I've got so much painted it's barely fitting in frame. So yeah, we're doing another one of these. You might be surprised by some games present here, and I certainly wasn't planning ahead to do an entire kill team in one go. But I figured the best way to take them on was just to do them as kind of like assembly line, just because otherwise I'd drift from doing them. So I forced myself to do them all kind of in sets of 2, 2 and 3. So yeah, that's the biggest bulk here, an entire kill team over here. But from left to right we have God tier, we have the Metal Gear Solid board game kill team, and then little bits and pieces from 3 other games, the He-Man Battlegrounds game, Batman miniature game, and Age of Sigmar / Warcry. So, a lot to get through, a lot to blather about. Let's get started. So, because of how many models I've got to talk about today, I'm going to bring them all forwards here and then kind of show you close-ups. So yeah, God tier. Haven't painted anything from God tier for a while, and I was looking for like something different to do, and I had I think 4 heroes from God tier I never got around to painting. It's not that I drifted from God tier because I didn't like it. I actually think God tier is Steamforge's best game. It is fantastic. It just doesn't have it doesn't have a player base, and 2, it certainly doesn't have a viewership, and certainly not large. And they did send me, I think the last time I talked about God tier, I'll show you these models as I'm blathering. It was Fenrir, which was a new hero they released. They very kindly sent me a free copy to paint up and show off, etc. And I was asking them about the game when I was talking to them about that process, and they assured me that that year, which I think was 2023, I think it was, like that was the year they were really making a big push with God tier. They really wanted to push it, and I'm pretty sure Fenrir was the only thing they released for the whole year. Since then they've released one more hero, a Treant type character, but what that big push was did not seem to materialize. I think I saw 2 other people, or one other person who also got a free copy of Fenrir to kind of paint up and show off, etc. They also covered God tier, and that was it. And neither of us had a lot of subscribers, so their big push was lackluster to say the least. And it is genuinely a great shame because I do believe God tier is a fantastic game, but it's just there's no viewership for it, so can't prioritize it. But anyway, I felt like painting something different, and I took Kira, I think her name is, and I deviated from the standard paint jobs because I didn't want to do flesh tone dragons, which is what the official paint job colours are. I wanted to do Monster Hunter themed ones, so I painted one with Rathian in mind and the red one with Rathalos in mind, so that's why they're red and green. And then I also did like a gold Rathian popping out of her egg, and she's holding an azure Rathalos. That's the only difference. Other than that, I did try and match up her colours. As usual, everything painted in contrast paint, based with Grey Seer, with only one exception when we get to Kill Team, which I'll mention when we get there. This is a bunch of Mantis Warrior Green, Skeletal Horde for the webbing in the wings, same applies to the red Rathalos. Leadbelcher Silver for the chains, Nazdrag Yellow for the golden parts, and that's just Bal Red for the gems there. And I used non-oil over everything. The bases are just the AK Technical Paint with Rattling Grime over it, and then I added some grass flock just to brighten them up a little bit, with also some flock flowers by Army Painter. The red I used here was primarily Bal Red with non-oil. It dulled it down a little bit. I tried to pick out more detail. I will say, compared to some of Steamforge's models, the detail on these are not super great. I would have liked a lot more of like the ridges and the dragon's scale skin to be more prominent, as in it certainly would have helped with contrast paint as well. But it's most obvious, I think, with Kira herself. I hope I'm saying her name right. If you go look at the official paint job or screenshots of Kira, the detail on her dress is vastly different to the retail version. You can see a lot of patterns in her dress, and I don't think it's the paint job creating that appearance. I think that is actually how the model was, and it got scaled down a little bit, I think. I might be wrong. By all means, go look up the official paint job for this lady yourself, and you can decide. But anyway, Magmadroth Flame for the red. That is Asherman Blue, I believe, with a little bit of Ultramarines Blue, Nazdrag Yellow, and non-oil over the top, and Gilman Flesh for the skin tones. And that's about it. Nothing much else to say. Oh, and Black Templar for her hair. And yeah, that's about it. So I just wanted to paint something different. I just wanted to cover a game I hadn't covered in a little while. I saw these sitting, and thought why not. And this is her banner, which is just an egg hatching. So I used Nesdrag Yellow, I used Agros Dunes for the outside of the egg with non-oil over the top, and I used some of the Nurgling Slime for the like goo inside of the egg, which I hope is in focus because it is a little small. And that's Basilicanum Grey for the stone upon which it's sitting. So yeah, not much else to say about that. I'm noticing there's a little, don't know what that is on the base actually. A crumb? Oh no, it's paint. It's a bit of the paint from the flock grass. Actually no, it's PVA glue dried, that's what it is from the glue. I'll fix that after the video. Moving on, we have a lot to talk about. We have 3 bosses from the Metal Gear Solid board game. I believe I have done them all now with the completion of Liquid Snake, Vulcan Raven and Sniper Wolf. In terms of things I need to paint up to carry on recording the game now, it would just be the final boss in the form of Metal Gear Rex. Well, I guess Liquid is technically also the final boss, but hey. Fun models, lots of detail. Liquid Snake was pretty easy. This was Agros Dunes for his coat. It was Rattling Grime for his trousers, Leadbelcher Silver for his boots, Guilliman Flesh for his skin tone, and because he has very, very yellow hair, I used Iron Jaws Yellow for that. I think in particular in the Twin Snakes remake of Metal Gear Solid 1, he had very, very yellow hair rather than just, you know, strawberry blonde. So that's what I went with, and I did the same on his base as I did for the soldiers, just with a little dry brushing of one of the red dry paints that Citadel does, just to be like there's an alert going off, and to add a little bit of visual flair to the back of his base. So, simple as that. And Lead Ultra Silver for his base. For these two, because you fight Vulcan Raven in a freezer, and you fight Sniper Wolf the final time, well in fact both times you fire, she's outside, and it looks like they took that into consideration for their bases. I painted their bases the same as I painted the player character bases, so if you want a recap on how I did that ice effect, just go back and see how I painted Snake, Meryl, Grey Fox and Otacon. I describe it in all of those. But for Vulcan Raven, he is largely Lead Belcher Silver because of the vast majority of him is the ridiculously large minigun he's carrying and with the ammo canister on the back. Guilliman Flesh for skin tone. I believe I used Ultramarine Blue to try and pick out his tattoos, which are modelled on the miniature itself, which is very nice because I certainly wouldn't have been able to do them. Militarm Green for his pants, and non-oil over everything that is not the base. Simple as that. And pretty cool looking. Pardon the pun, I guess, considering you fight him in a giant freezer. But you haven't fought him yet, obviously, and needed to get him painted up first. Very cool looking mini. Sniper Wolf, I'm not as happy with the paint job I did on her because there's really not much to her. She's just standing there with a sniper rifle. She's modelled with what she wears in the interiors you see and talk to her, like during the interrogation scene. And she's wearing this the first time you fight her. Also, please get in focus. It's a bit of an awkward model with 2 of them on the base. Hopefully that's it. When you're first sniping her, when she snipes Meryl, when you actually fight her in the snowfields, which is like the final fight against her, she's wearing like a full like white costume that the soldiers wear to keep warm, but they didn't model her with that, so it's a little bit, I don't know, she likes, the base implies she's outside, but the costume implies otherwise, and one of my dog's hairs is on this dog, how ironic. There we go. She's got a wolf on her, with her rather, Basilicanum Grey. I painted the eyes red because it's a little reference to the video game. When they don't like Snake, the eyes are red, but if you have the handkerchief that smells of Sniper Wolf, they like you, and their eyes are no longer red, and they just come over and give you sniff, and like little love hearts appear above their heads. It's kind of adorable. For her costume, I believe I used Basilicanum Grey as well, but applied thicker with non-oil over the top, and that looks like I used Agros Dunes for her boots. Her hair is Skeletal Horde, I think. I actually don't fully remember, but just looking at it in this light right now, it looks like Skeletal Horde to me. And Black Templar for her sniper rifle, which also doesn't match up to how it looks in the video game, but ah well. So yeah, that's all the major bosses painted up for the game now. In fact, that's most of the miniatures painted up. I think there's like 6 guards that are all in the same poses I've done already, plus Metal Gear Rex, and that's technically everything done for it. So next, we have the entirety of the Plague Marine kill team that was in the new starter box alongside the Angels of Death / Ultramarines kill team. And yeah, as I said at the top of the video, I didn't expect to have them all painted up, but when I started, I was like, I've got to do this. I've just got to like knuckle down and get them all done, or I'm going to linger with 1 or 2 of them and then not remember what I did. So yeah, I painted up the entire kill team. I did the same thing for all of them. And it's funny, one of the first videos I ever made for this channel, and remains like one of my most viewed videos, was here's how to paint Death Guard with contrast paint. And then I did a second one where I showed a different method, still using contrast paints, but different contrast paints, and in one of those I also showed off what I used to do for Death Guard before contrast paints existed. And now cut to this kill team, and I've just experimented again, so this is technically the 4th style on my channel for doing Death Guard. If you like, you can copy this one, you can copy the previous ones, whatever visual style you're looking for. So, to get started with these, I'll just show them to you as I blather, because as I say, I used essentially the exact same method for all of them. And that started with, despite them already being modelled in what is essentially Plague Forest Green, or Death Forest, whatever it's called, that green right there, and they're all push fit by the way, I still spray painted them in that, because that's the base on which I decided to work with them. I then used a Citadel dry brush. It's a very warm green. I don't remember offhand what it's called, so I'm going to have to flash that up on screen. My dog isn't about to bark, is she? We don't need a jump scare in this video. Wait, don't bother looking first. She's looking. Okay, she gave up. I think we're fine. So I did a pretty healthy dry brushing of just that light green all over, not just on the edges, because I just kind of wanted a blend of greens. And as I say, I will already have flashed up whatever that's called, because I don't remember the name of that dry brush offhand. Then I picked out all of the bronze parts based on how they're painted in the official paint job using Bronze Scorpion, which is not a contrast paint, it's just a paint. And also Lead Belcher Silver, because some of them have mixes of silver and bronze, like some of their shoulder pads are silver, some of them aren't, some of them are bronze. And then once those were dried, I used a little bit of Aethermatic Blue contrast paint on the bronze in like the puddled areas, just to create that kind of like blue rust kind of thing that the official models have. And you can also see I picked out the like rims of the legs and stuff with the bronze. And then it was a case of Black Templar for anything like guns, etc. Silver for other parts of the gun. Any Nurglings, I quickly kind of gave them a dry brushing of Dawnstone, and then I went over them with Guilliman Flesh. So I didn't fully go over them again with a base coat. The backs of these are all capes and such are Sigurd Burgundy as well. And then I went over everything when I was done with that with Sepia Wash. Not Agret Surshade, the other one, it's Sepia something or other by Citadel. That's the one I use for Death Guard, because it's murkier and kind of fits the theme. And then also use Nurgling Slime in places, and for ones that have like polyps on them, or polices, whatever these are. This one has a bunch of like blue candles in the official paint job, so I was like, okay, sure, why not? I used Aethermatic Blue for the candles, and then a mixture of Nazrag Yellow, Iron Jaws Yellow and Imperial Fist Yellow for the pustules on him. And all of them, these were originally one of those Hero Blind Box things Games Workshop did, so every one of these guys has a lot of character. They all have a lovely, at least one friendly Nurgling on their base as well, which is a lot of fun. They've got so much character, as Nurgle stuff often does, as I mentioned every time I paint them. Like, this one's probably the most dangerous, because this Nurgling's just sitting amongst a pile of grenades waiting to help throw them. And I think he's pulled the pin on one of them, because it's hanging on his ear. Hopefully that is in focus, it's a bit of an awkward angle. I believe that is there. Oh yeah, for any like bones and things, I use Skeletal Horde, and for those who have tentacles, I used Volupus Pink. Or like slugs, as we'll see as we get to the Malignant Plaguecaster. But that is the Grenadier. And then this is probably my favourite one in terms of like having a Nurgling, because he's got like a Boglin looking Nurgling on the base there, like on his base right there, but he's actually lost one of his flails, or one of the parts of his flail. It's between his legs, so a Nurgling is hanging on for dear life as he is whapping around the flail, and I absolutely love it, because Nurglings, they're just fun little guys. And this is probably the most fun. And he doesn't care. He's just going to keep throwing that flail, even though he's got a Nurgling hanging on for dear life. And I love the character of it. It's great. It's a wonderful miniature. Very fun. And oh yeah, for the bases, they all came with like textured bases anyway. So I just went over them with, I believe, what did I use on them? I think it was Mantis Warrior Green, including the dry brushing I was talking about earlier, and then the Sepia Wash on top, I think. I didn't add any of the technical paint or anything like that. They came with enough detail and texture to work with. Case in point, the Malignant Plaguecaster is standing on a slug, and his foot crushing it is spitting out maggots everywhere, and he has them pouring out of like multiple orifices. His face is also a fly, which is just great. Each one of these came with a unhelmeted option, by the way. I prefer my Space Marines to have their helmets on. This guy had two different, like a human face or a fly face. I picked fly face because he is largely a fly. His stomach is like burst open and maggots are falling out of it. The spell he's casting is filled with them. They're coming out of his legs and they're coming out of his shoulders. Just disgusting in a lovely way. So that's why I went with that. Don't really get these wing things. I guess it's just to fit the whole fly theme. I think of the bunch of them, of all 7 of them, this is the one that probably turned out the worst. It just so happened. So this is the one I feel like didn't turn out that great. And then we have the standard bearer, or whatever he's officially called, and he's got these weird looking worm creatures all over him. I used Imperial Fist Yellow for those before the various washes. He also has a Nurgling poking his head through his banner, which is great, and then whatever that is, I don't know if it's another Nurgling, but it's way too small. He's also got a huge like tree bark looking bone that's going right through his shoulder blade into his stomach, which is cool but probably painful. So yeah, an entire kill team done with basically what I said. Oh yeah, for the blades, it's Lead Belcher Silver, and then I used Striking Scorpion Green, and then the Sepia Wash on top, just because they are meant to be poisoned blades, so I wanted them to look like they're covered in some kind of virulent garbage. So yeah, very happy with how these turned out. I don't really have a suggestion of, oh, you should paint Death Guard this way over this way. I'm just mentioning again, like if you go back to my painting series where I actually do stuff step by step and show you a model from start to completion with contrast paint, a couple of them are Death Guard and painted in a specific way. I also mentioned how I used to paint prior to having contrast paint, and now this is a new method. Is it better? I don't know. It's just, if anything, I would say it's just a different way. So you can look at all 4 ways, pick what you want, and hopefully I provided enough detail that if you wanted to copy me, you absolutely could. So now we have the dregs. We have 3 singular miniatures from 3 different games, and it's just one each representing what I've been up to. This guy from the He-Man game, He-Man Battleground, I don't know his name. I think he was with the Spider one from last time, whose name I also didn't know, and he is being problematic when it comes to focus. There we go. I like that he's kind of like, he's almost like Dr. Phosphorus. He's very much like a neon skeleton, but he has bones. Sadly, the bone shapes from the official paint job, they're not modelled on the models, so I couldn't really pick them out. I don't have a fine hand or fine eye for detail like that, so it's not super great. I used Gut Ripper Flesh Tone for him with Eldari Emerald for the glaive, because it's a slightly different shade of green to him. Luxium Purple, or whatever the bright purple contrast paint is called, for his cloak. And he... which blue was this? This was Stormfiend Blue, I think, for that. And that is Briar Queen Chill for whatever weird mist is on his base. Again, I have no memory of this character, so could not tell you about him at all, but he's a cool looking miniature, and I think he was teamed with Beastman actually. I think he was with Beastman. So that was the other half of that box done. So nice and quick. Speaking of nice and quick, I have the Arch Revenant for you for the Sylvaneth for Age of Sigmar / Warcry. He's been in a battle report already, so you might have seen him already with the Tree People. I talked about how I painted these previously. Not so much with the Kurnoth Hunters, which are the Tree People, but prior with like the team for Warhammer Underworlds that are Tree People. So I don't really need to go over everything here, but just as a reminder, it's kind of like Briar Queen, Chill, Quelia, Wash, Green, Wash, and that's basically it for all the spirit-looking parts. The wood is Rattling Grime with Sylvaneth Bark dry brushing on top. Manda's Warrior Green for the tree parts, and then just like Flock, etc. And Skeletal Horde for the skull he is standing on. Pretty cool miniature, and exceptionally quick, as we've seen from the battle reports he's been in. Very, very quick and pretty tanky. So pretty impressive. Very nice. Didn't realise his wings. Well, I was going to say his wings. If we turn him around, the secret is revealed. It is not his wings. He's got some kind of weird spirit bug attached to his back that is providing his flight capabilities. So that's making him look more dramatic than he would otherwise be, but still pretty cool looking. I like him. And he performs very well in Warcry. Can't say for sure for Age of Sigmar, but certainly for Warcry. And finally, I did a little break in case I end up blathering for a long time. We have a Batman. This was just a Batman that I picked up in the final order I ever did with Night Models, which I think was Black Friday 2023. Maybe it was 2024. I don't quite remember. It might have just been last year. Either way, this is just a Batman that you can use in place of any other Batman. They couldn't be bothered making a stat card for this one, even though the Joker they released alongside this Batman does have a unique stat card, but whatever. They're a very strange company, and this is not a sign of the Batman miniature game returning, incidentally. I just felt like painting Batman, and I had this sitting, and I wanted to get a little bit funky with the lighting, as I'm sure you can tell. And it's a pretty cool looking miniature, fun pose with him doing a karate kick. So I thought, why not just muck around with it, just do it for fun. It seems to me like the Night Models brand in general is circling the drain, not even just the Batman one. They're trying to make a quick buck doing STL campaigns and not releasing anything decent. There hasn't been a release for this since last year, and the official website they made for the Batman miniature game hasn't been updated in 2 years now, so it seems, and they never released a card pack, so it's technically still not legally playable unless you print out a ridiculous number of objective card decks yourself. So yeah, it's pretty much dead in the water, but this model, very cool looking, and I decided to do some weird stuff with it. So I used Ultramarines Blue on the big old billowing cape, and it was very blotchy, so I was like, okay, we're going to do more with that. So I did a thick dry brushing of Cantor Blue, and then I applied a Drakenshade wash, and I actually ended up loving how it looks. I think it looks perfect in terms of getting that billowing, it actually looks like fabric, and I kind of accidentally did myself into that, but I actually do like how it looks. Like I do actually feel like that has the texture I was looking for. So and in the interior as well, with like where the creases are, it turned out very nice with the dry brushing there. I used Space Wolves Grey for most of his suit, Iron Jaws Yellow for his utility belt, Golden Flesh for his trademark chin, and then I got funky with it. It's just first of all silver for basically everything on the base, with a little bit of Bal Red and Talisar Blue, I think that was, no sorry, Frost Art Blue, and Nazrag Yellow for the clown face that's spitting out poison. So then I was like, oh, now I'm just going to get a bit funky with it. So I used Striking Scorpion Green for this, I believe it was, and then I just kind of very liberally applied where I thought the glow would catch, including as if it was coming out the vents there. I guess technically you could argue if it was coming out the vents, it should be a little bit reflected on the interior of the cape, but in terms of like what you would see for the model, it didn't really matter to me. But in terms of looking from the front, I'm happy with where the glow is at least implied. Maybe he's jumping towards something that's also glowing. I don't know. I was just wanting to be a bit funky with it, just for fun. I like when I do these little experiments with the contrast paint for doing this kind of blending. And yeah, I'm actually really happy with how this turned out. It's a very cool looking Batman. It's a shame about these resin bases they did, which never sit properly on their plastic bases. Like you can see a gap there, presumably. But it's fine. So I looked at some other stuff that I did originally order from that Black Friday order and did not finish, so expect to potentially see more Batman models in the next update. But as I say, it is not a sign of me playing the game again, not least because when I did play it, it was one of the longest to record, not even including editing time. It was like a 4-hour recording session, which is insane because of always having to double triple check everything and still ending up forgetting stuff or finding things that contradict other things. It's not a well written game, in case that isn't obvious. So yeah, it's not indicative of the game coming back, but you might see some more Batman miniatures in this series. And that is going to do it for another Getting Stuff Painted, not too long after the most recent one. But hey, I was painting up a storm. I don't know, I just got hit with a wave of wanting to paint a lot of stuff and jumping between a bunch of different games for just inspiration, I guess. So next time you can potentially expect to see Batman again, as I said, but beyond that you'll see a little bit more Warcry. There's a couple of miniatures I want to paint up for Warcry, just a little side thing. It's not a full squad or anything like that, it's just a couple of skeletal horses, so they're on the table right now in progress, so you're definitely going to see those, I can say that with certainty. Beyond that, you might see some Kill Team. My goal now is to paint up the Ultramarine half of that starter box that came with the Plague Marines there, and then maybe follow through the learn Kill Team step by step that comes with that starter set, where you don't use the full rules straight away while it slowly introduces you. I think that might be the best way for me to learn it before trying a full game with every aspect of gameplay. You might see more Metal Gear Solid. I don't know if I'm going to paint up any more soldiers. I might just go straight to trying to paint up Rex. And I might do some more God Tier as well, just to kind of work through the backlog. The pile of grey shame over the years is taking some damage. So come back in about 2 weeks and you will hopefully see more. Oh, and also feel free to show me what you've been painting via Blue Sky or Discord. Thank you for watching either way though, and see you next time. Ta-ta for now.